All right, just going to run through the revision questions that I got you to do on coordinate geometry of the line and sequences and series or patterns. All right, so take those, take the questions out that I gave you to do and take your answers out as well as I go through these. So question 1, find the midpoint of the line segment joining A and B. A is minus 3, 4, and B is 1, minus 6, as I have written here. So it's telling you to find the midpoint. So formula for midpoint is there. All right, so x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. So m is equal to x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. Now, the x1, x2, y1, y2, that's a label you put on these points here. So I'm going to call this point here x1, y1, and I'm going to call this one x2, y2. Okay, so each point needs to contain an x and a y. So x1, y1, x2, y2, and then the numbering is, so the two ones go together, the two twos go together. Okay, so I could have called this x1, y1, and this x2, y2. The question would still work out, but anything other than that, or what I've got written down, you will get it wrong. All right, so sub in to my formula. So x1 is minus 3, plus x2 is 1 over 2. y1 plus y2, so that's 4 plus minus 6. So plus in the formula, the point then is negative. So that's equal to minus 3 plus 1 is minus 2 over 2. 4 plus minus 6. A plus and a minus together is a minus. So minus 4 minus 6 is minus 2 again. And then just minus 2 divided by 2 is minus 1. So your point is minus 1, minus 1. All right, so there's your midpoint. That's what's halfway between minus 3, 4, and 1, minus 6. What am I asked to show then? The second part, show that the two vertical lines there means the length of AM, or the distance from point A to point M, is equal to the distance from point M to point B. So to get the distance between 2 points, or to get the length of a line segment, is another way of thinking about it. Here's your formula here. Okay, so my length formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So AM is equal to x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. All right, so A I've already called x1, y1, so let's call M x2, y2 for this one. All right, so x2 minus x1, so that is minus 1 minus minus 3. So just be careful, there's a minus in the formula, and that is a negative point then as well. So x2 is minus 1 minus minus 3, all to be squared, plus y2 is minus 1 minus y1 is 4, to be squared. So that's equal to, now a minus and a minus together is a plus, so this is minus 1 plus 3, which is 2. If you're not too sure of that, just minus 2 take away minus 3, sorry, that should be minus 1 take away minus 3 is plus 2. All right, so all that ends up as 2 squared plus minus 1 minus 4 is minus 5. Okay, so again, minus 1, take away 4, minus 5 is equal to 2 squared is 4. Minus 5 squared is plus 25. Again, plug it into the calculator if you must. If you plug that into the calculator, you need to use the brackets as they're written there. So brackets minus 5, close your brackets, squared is plus 25. If you enter that any other way into the calculator, it will give you the wrong answer. Okay, so you should always be anticipating a positive answer when you square. It's very easy to mess that up either in your head or in the calculator. So minus 5 squared, because it's a minus number by a minus number, it's a positive. So it's plus 25. So 4 plus 25 then. So the square root of 29, that's the length of AM, or the distance from A to M. Okay, now what am I doing here? I'm just showing that the length of AM is equal to the length of MB. So it's fine to leave that as root 29, because all I'm trying to do is get the same thing over here. So if I get root 29, I've done it. Okay, I don't need to kind of round it off to a decimal point or anything like that. All right, so over here, I'm going to get the length of MB. Okay, and I'm doing like from A to the midpoint and from B to the midpoint, so they should be the same. That's how I know they should be the same. So it's going to be pretty much the same thing again. Okay, so same formula. x2 minus x1 to be squared plus y2 minus y1 to be squared. Now, you're going to number them differently now, because you're using M, which is this one here, and B. So using the numbering you've already used, they're both 2. So let's change this one here to x1, y1. Okay, so this is my x1, y1, this is my x2, y2. All right, so that labeling is something you introduce and you use yourself. So you can change it as you move to a different part of the question, or a separate question maybe. Okay, so this is equal to x2 minus x1. So 1 minus minus 1. Be squared plus y2 minus y1, so minus 6 minus minus 1, all to be squared. That's equal to 1 minus minus 1, 2 minuses together is a plus, so that's 2 squared, plus minus 6 minus minus 1, 2 minuses together is a plus, so minus 6 plus 1 is minus 5. Again, do it on the calculator if you need to. 2 squared is 4, minus 5 squared is plus 25. So that is the square root of 29. So you have shown AM is equal to MB. And as I said, because M is the midpoint between A and B, we will anticipate that result, that they will be the same. Okay, but that's it. Proved. All right, and again, just the vertical lines, that's what they mean. It means the length of the line AM, or the distance from point A to point M, means the same thing. Question 2 then, I'm given 2 points, 3 minus 4 and 1 2. I'm told to find the slope, and then I'm told to find the equation of the line AB. Now, even if I wasn't told to find the slope, if you look, you've got 2 equation formulas here. It's the top one I use to get the equation of a line. So if you look at that, you need an x1, y1 to sub in, but you need m. What does m mean in coordinate geometry? The line, it means slope. So you need the slope of a line to get the equation of a line. So even if that first part of the question, find the slope, wasn't there, you would still need to do it to find the equation of AB. But it's broken up, so slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's do our kind of labeling. So I'll call this x1, y1. I'll call this x2, y2. So y2 minus y1 is 2 minus minus 4. Just be careful with the double negatives. Minus in the formula, minus in the point. Over x2 minus x1. So 1 minus 3. So that's equal to 2 minuses together make a plus. So 2 plus 4 is 6. Over 1 minus 3 is minus 2. So slopes I would generally leave as a fraction unless the number divides in evenly. Okay, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I'm going to write this slope as minus 3. Okay, positive divided by negative is a negative. 6 divided by 2 is 3. All right. If it was the other way around, if it was 2 over 6, leave it as 1/3. Don't change it to a decimal. If maybe it was, I don't know, 7 over 2, leave it as 7 over 2 rather than writing it as 3.5. Okay, leave them as fractions unless they're whole numbers, is what I would say. Right, so find the equation of AB then. So the equation of a line formula that I showed you there is y minus y1 equals m on x minus x1. Okay, so important thing about this formula, the x and the y here, I do not sub in for those. So the ones without a number, you don't sub in for. Okay, so you want an x and y in the equation of your line. So it is just x1 and y1 that you sub in for, and then your slope as well. All right, so I've already called this x1, y1, so I'll use that as my x1, y1. I could, if I want, use this, and it will still give me the same equation of a line. All right, but I've already called those x1, y1, so I'll use those ones. So y minus y1 is minus 4 is equal to m, my slope is minus 3 on x minus x1, so x minus 3. So not subbing in for xy, using my x1, y1 from up there. All right. The question doesn't actually say it wants this in any particular form. Okay, you were generally told to write equations of lines in the form y equals mx plus c. So multiply it out, just get the y on its own on the left hand side, or else in the form ax plus by plus c equals 0, which basically means multiply it out and then move everything to the left hand side. Okay, you're not asked for it in a particular form here, so they can't deduct you marks if you kind of leave it in one form or the other. Okay, but let's write it in this form here, just because it's we're asked to do it a lot. So y minus minus 4, 2 minuses together make a plus, so y plus 4 equals minus 3 by x is minus 3x, minus 3 by minus 3 is plus 9. Let's move everything then to the left hand side, so I have everything on one side equal to 0. So if you bring a minus 3x over, it becomes plus 3x. I've got plus y there already. I've got plus 4. If you bring plus 9 over, it becomes minus 9. 4 minus 9 is minus 5. And there is your equation of the line. Okay. If you sub the other point in, 1, 2, it should give you like a true statement is one way you could check your answer there. So if I sub 1, 2 in here, so 1 is the x coordinate, 2 is the y coordinate, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5, minus 5 is equal to 0, so that works. All right. All right, over then to question 3. So in this one, you're given the equations of lines and you're asked questions about them. So this is where you use the other equation of the line formula. The y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, so the first one is for getting the equation of a line. The second one is when you have the equation of a line and you want to get information from it. So y equals mx plus c. So when y is on its own on the left hand side, so it doesn't have a coefficient, doesn't have a number in front of it, what can I tell? Whatever is in front of the x is the slope. Okay, so whatever number is in front of the x, that's the slope of your line. And then the c, okay, the number on its own at the end, that's where the line cuts the y-axis. So it cuts the y-axis. So if the line looked like that, it'd be that point is 0, c. All right. Luckily, these questions are all in the form y equals mx plus c already, so I can just read this information off. Sometimes, like, let's say if this was 2y, you'd need to divide everything by 2 to get the y kind of on its own without a number in front of it. As I said, this one's set up nicely for us. So, part 1, name a pair of parallel lines. Well, parallel lines have the same slope. All right. So, part 1. My parallel lines. So, yeah, there's a 2 in front of the x there. There's a 2 in front of the x there. So they have the same slope. Parallel lines have the same slope. So line A and line F are both 2x. So the slope of them is both 2. So A and F are your parallel lines. Part 2, find a pair of perpendicular lines. So what are your perpendicular lines? Well, the slopes of perpendicular lines, they multiply together to give you -1 is one way of checking it. Or the other way of checking it is they'll be flipped and the sign changed. So by that I mean, if you were told the slope of some line is 2/3, the slope of a perpendicular line would be flip it and get 3/2 and then change the sign, so minus. All right, so see if we can find anything that fits this. One thing to check, one thing just be careful of, if you're told the slope of one of them is, say, 5, and you want the perpendicular line, how do you flip 5? Well, you kind of force it to be a fraction by putting it over 1. And then the perpendicular line will be 1/5 and change the sign, -1/5. All right, so can we find that? This is 2/1. And if I flip 2/1, it becomes 1/2. And then if I change the sign, it becomes -1/2. So I've got that there. So A and E, or F and E. 2/1, flip, 1/2, change the sign, -1/2. All right. The third one, which crosses at 0, 4. So remember, they cross at 0, C. So this crosses at 0, -3. This crosses at 0, 3. This crosses at 0, 4. So part 3 crosses the y-axis at 0, 4 is line E. And part 4, which line crosses the y-axis at 0, -3? That's A. Okay, so the C there at the end is -3, so it must cross down at -3. So which one crosses at 0, -3? It's line A. All right, so those ones can get a little bit trickier. That's a reasonable enough one. All right.